One of the most exciting moments of this past year was the successful launch of the SpaceX Dragon capsule with 2 NASA astronauts aboard. Our country had successfully launched astronauts to space for the first time since the space shuttle program was retired. Our children were inspired and their creativity peaked. There's something powerful about space exploration that inspires us and pushes people to think that the impossible is a reality. While the Dragon spacecraft captured the interest of so much of our country, accomplishing that task was challenging. CEO and chief designer of SpaceX, Elon Musk, can attest to the difficulties of reaching that joyous moment. Throughout his career, Musk experienced serious failures and setbacks. After dreaming the concept of SpaceX, Musk set out to acquire his first rocket. On 2 separate trips to Russia, he was turned down and told that his plan could not work. While flying home after that second failed meeting, Musk realized that he could design a reusable rocket that would dramatically decrease the cost of space exploration. Unfortunately, the first few rockets ended in explosions, and these were not the only ones. Time after time, SpaceX had issues that prevented them from moving forward with their mission. After all the setbacks and failures, it would have been understandable if Musk would have ended his focus on space exploration. However, Musk thinks about failure differently than many of us. Musk says failure is an option here. If things are not failing, you are not innovating. It is his acceptance of this idea that enabled Musk to be one of the most successful people in the world. Failure is a common experience among the world's top innovators. Why is this the case? At its core, failure is about allowing for vulnerability. Failure can only happen when one moves out of the realm of knowing the outcome. It is in this space that the great innovators allow themselves to become vulnerable and actually embrace the failure that accompanies it. This mentality is needed to make the impossible a reality. Research shows that vulnerability is the birthplace of creativity, joy, love, and belonging. We have one final day during these Yamim Noraim to explore our behaviors. The 19th century Ger Rabbi remarks that the revelation of Torah is preceded and followed by God's laws to teach us about our relationship with Torah. Revealing the Torah was an incredibly vulnerable moment for God. Were the Israelites going to live by the laws? And these laws, before and after revelation, become viewed as a protection for this vulnerable moment. Instead of the Torah being a list of rules, the placement of these laws were intended to be a guide for our life. Engaging in Jewish life, recognizing that we are unable to fulfill all of the mitzvot, places us in a vulnerable position before God. How we respond to that understanding is the key to Jewish life. The Ger Rebbe is imploring us to embrace that vulnerability as an opportunity to return to Torah and Jewish life. Understanding that we are constantly learning and growing as individuals and Jews. This is the entire process of tshuva and is an incredible metaphor for life. We engage in a life of Torah precisely to make ourselves feel vulnerable. No matter how hard we try, no Jew is capable of fulfilling every mitzvah. Instead, Torah is a way of humbling ourselves, forcing us to realize that we are never 100% perfect. We never have 100% of the answers. We study the same texts year after year, constantly finding new ways to improve who we are as individuals. While innovators embrace this vulnerability, many of us run away from it. We are afraid of being wrong in front of friends, coworkers, bosses, and family. We attempt to remove uncertainty from our lives, and most significantly, this impacts the way we relate to one another. We have reached a moment in which the need to be right outweighs everything else. This prevents us from feeling vulnerable because we forbid ourselves to be open to different points of view. By exposing ourselves to alternative ideas, there is a chance that our opinions may change, or we may admit that we were wrong. Instead of allowing vulnerability to be part of our life, a chance to admit a mistake and grow from the experience, we often enter every situation with the mentality that I am right and you have nothing to offer to me. We have it all backwards. This is the opposite of what is needed in order to be the best versions of ourselves. We never have all the answers. We are people that learn best from our mistakes. In one of our local Jewish day schools, the engineering teachers do not intervene in the students' experiments. Instead, the teachers allow them to make mistakes because the students learn more from their mistakes than achieving the correct answer the first time. This is the same mentality at the Research and Development Department at Google, where they say, we spend most of our time breaking things and trying to prove that we are wrong. The secret behind Google's success is that they know most ideas are flawed. Only a small number of innovations actually work. In a vast majority of situations, they recognize that for anything to succeed, it must change, and they are willing to learn from their experiences. In order to be the best versions of ourselves, we must become comfortable with vulnerability. Only by allowing ourselves to become vulnerable are we able to learn, grow, and actually do tshuva. Psychologists describe the human mindset in two ways. Either one operates with a fixed or growth mindset. Carol Dweck, in her book, Mindset, describes a fixed mindset as believing that your qualities are unchangeable. You want to prove to yourself being correct over and over rather than learning from your mistakes. With a fixed mindset, we are stuck, unable to make the necessary changes in our lives. However, the growth mindset is the opposite. Dweck writes, why look for friends or partners who will just shore up your self-esteem instead of ones who will challenge you to grow? And why seek out the tried and true instead of experiences that will stretch you? The passion for stretching yourself and sticking to it is the hallmark of the growth mindset. This is the mindset that allows people to thrive. Our culture seems to emphasize the fixed mindset. Reflect for a moment on the events of 57 AD. the President of the United States was impeached. There was gun violence at home and abroad. Nationwide protests erupted after the death of George Floyd. Coronavirus spread quickly around the world and throughout our country. Joe Biden became the presidential nominee for the Democratic Party, and President Donald Trump was nominated by the Republican Party to run for a second term. I want each of us to reflect on those moments. When you first heard the news surrounding each of these events, what was your initial reaction? In the weeks after each event, did you listen or read information from a point of view that differed from your own? Did your opinion change at any point? Or did you make up your mind immediately and stick to your beliefs? Unfortunately for many people today, proving our beliefs to ourselves and others is the priority. We are so fixated on being correct that we surround ourselves with news sources that share our opinions and people who reinforce our positions. We distance ourselves from those whom we do not agree with. Instead, we should be able to listen to all positions. Perhaps our initial thoughts will not change on any topic, but by exposing ourselves to a variety of opinions, we open ourselves to the possibility to learn and grow. Just the very fact of becoming vulnerable allows us to enter a growth mindset because we are open to change. As we embark this year on 5781, we must each step out of our comfortable bubble. We need to stop believing that we have the only correct answer. We need to move out of the fixed mindset and rather find ways to strive for the growth mentality. Embrace life like an entrepreneur. Taking risks and being exposed to a range of opinions allows us to become the best versions of ourselves. In the end, we may not change, but the very fact of opening ourselves to the possibility of being wrong is what the Torah and humanity ask of us. This is the mentality that guides the world's most successful companies, and it should be the way each of us leads our own personal lives, allowing us to fully fulfill the process of tshuva. L'shana tova tichatemu. May all of us be sealed for a good year.